Okay guys, I'm going to come back with you guys with another container video, okay? And I showed you this method with the birch tree and showing you can make a container out of bark with a birch tree. And this here is a cedar tree, and there's two ways of going about this. The way I'm going to do it is not recommended because it's going to debark the tree all the way around. Okay, now the Indians, there's no cedars around here big enough to do what they did, and that's why I'm doing this, just to give you guys the educational purpose of it. And I'm going to be using the rest of the cedar tree once it all dries out and everything, okay, because cedar's got multiple uses. So this here though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a strip of bark all the way around this, okay, and you do this in the springtime, and that's when the Indians would do it too. And there's evidence still of these trees still alive today of the Indians doing this. They would slice it here and they would take that bark and pull it straight up that tree and make multiple containers and use it for canoes and waterproofing and all kinds of things. It was pretty neat how they did it, okay? But this is kind of the same method. You know, you just want to make a slice, you know, down this like this, and you want to make a slice here like this, and a slice here. You know, make your container big enough where you can actually use it, and then you'll get your fingers up underneath there and it'll be all slimy and wet and everything, okay? And you're just going to kind of work that bark off like this, okay? Just be nice and gentle with it, okay? And it'll come off. Take your knife and slowly pry it away from the tree. Just kind of work it off because you don't want it breaking on you or anything. If you do this during the winter or anything, the bark will just simply break on you, okay? That's what'll happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around this whole tree with my knife. Make your cut deep enough so it doesn't tear on you when you start to debark it. Now in the springtime what happens is all the water starts going up in these trees, and you can actually peel it off much easier because it becomes more pliable. Just like if you were to soak wood in water or heat it up in water, it would become more pliable. Same thing happens here, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. You can see how I just run my knife down that. It slowly just peels off that tree, nice and beautiful for me. Okay, and then you can take your fingers underneath it. Now birch is a little different. It comes off a little different than this because birch is just a different tree all the way around. Okay, and when you get to a knot like right there, you want to take your knife and make sure you get that off to make sure you don't tear it too much, okay? And there is a little hole there where that knot was, but that's okay because I got it towards the end. Alright guys, so this is what you'll end up with. A nice sheet of cedar bark here, and you can see that there's holes in here, you know, where twigs were poking through, and the way you fix that is with pine sap. Usually there's some pines around where there's cedars, okay? Or if you get a piece with no holes, then awesome. You know, that's what you're dealing with when you're working with small cedar like this, okay? You're gonna have twigs all the way down to the base. With that big cedar I was talking about, you won't have that problem, okay? Now I can see a couple sections here where there is no holes that would work, but I'm gonna go ahead for this demonstration. I'm gonna show you guys how to do this without worrying about the twig holes. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to take this down real thin on the edges like that, down to this white, wet, slimy bark, okay? What I want to do is take this down to make it pliable like birch bark, and I'm going to do a little bit of a different technique. Okay, you saw how with the birch bark I took and made a couple pegs, and you can use them like clothespins, which would work just fine on this, okay? But I'm just giving you other ideas. If you didn't want to make the pegs, you can use cordage by just simply tying the ends off. Okay, and this is the different method I was talking about. What I wanted to do with this to make it just as reliable as, say, a pegged one like I did the birch bark container, I dug a hole, okay? This could be a little bit easier to do. Now what you'd have to do with this is stone boil, okay? and I've shown that stone boiling is not very difficult. I used it on that rock one that I did, and this would work just fine stone boiling in. Okay, like I showed you, I shaved off all that outer bark, made it real pliable, and now what I'm doing is took me all of 5 minutes to find a tree with some gooey pine sap on it. Okay, you want the gooier stuff, you don't want hard stuff, because if we don't have fire yet, we can't make it gooey. Okay, so I just found some quick gooey pine sap, and I'm just in all the areas that I can tell are gonna leak, that have where them twigs were and stuff, maybe a little crack. I'm just loading it up with pine sap. Okay, and that's just gonna waterproof it for me. Pine sap is very much so waterproof. Okay, you just got to think like, you know, caulking something with silicone. Just goop it down, make sure it's really hugging the edges and stuff, and it should do the trick for you. Okay, and we'll find out here in just a minute when I put some water in it. But what you can do with this now is you have a way to catch rainwater. So if it rains, you've got pure water. All right, that's beautiful. Or if you have dirty water, you just need to go find some stones, make a fire and heat them up, and you've got a way to boil water. Okay, and this is just a small little cedar tree, and I can fit dang near a liter of water in there. Okay, that's not bad. So if we had some stones and we could boil up a liter of water, that's a good situation there. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish patching up here and go grab some water down at the creek, and I'll be right back up here in a minute, and we'll give this a nice test run here and see how it does. Okay, I just poured nearly a liter of water. Okay, there's this much in the bottom of my container left. There's 32 ounces right here. Okay, so that's almost a liter of water. It's holding water just fine. You can see, okay, I'm spilling some over the edge there, but all my patches with the pine sap's holding up great. Water's not leaking. So now all I'd have to do is just get some stones and stone boil this. And if you have a source of water, or you dug a well with some water in it, all you got to do is just keep putting water in, keep stone boiling, fill up on water, and go. And you can bring this thing with you. Okay, it's flat, it would fit in a pack, or easy to carry, so you shouldn't have a problem with that either. So that was just another little tip. That's another container we can make. If you want to see the birch bark container, you got to check out my Michigan video, and you can see how I did that. I actually boiled water over the fire with that one, or you can heat it up to 160 degrees, which I've explained too. Okay, so there you have it, another bark container and another container for our container series. This is Cedar.